Welcome to Restoring the Mind, where we discuss the mind and brain and all its domains. My name is Khalid Mahmood. Today's topic is coronavirus. My guest this week is Javed Tariq. He is somebody who has experienced coronavirus and was hospitalized last year. Welcome to Restoring the Mind, Javed.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Okay. Tell us what happened and how did it start? And first, start by introducing yourself, your age, your health, what it was like before the coronavirus attacked you.
Sure. Yeah. First of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to discuss this and explain my experience with COVID. I'm currently 37 years old. I am a regular badminton player, part of a club playing league for past 6 to 7 years. So I can say that I was quite fit or okay and played a competitive sport before the COVID. I did have this thing in back of my mind, comparing myself with quite a lot of other people, thinking that I'm quite fit and I've got good stamina and I can. Usually, I'm quite alright. I don't even get cold and flu and those type of seasonal issues. So starting from the beginning, where I used to go out with friends, even though the lockdown was in place. I wasn't going much out. I am working from home. I do an office-related job. I'm an IT expert, so we were working from home. But occasionally, like on the weekends, in the evening, sometime I used to go out with friends. And there's a very limited number of people I hang around with. There were only three of us in total, and I knew that they are in kind of bubble, so I'm okay. But I think it was beginning of November. I came home. That's probably 3rd of November, or the night of 2nd of November.
November of 2020.
2020, yes. And I started feeling cold straight away because it was quite late during the night, and I was thinking that it might be just cold. But within talking about 30 minutes, I started getting temperature, which was very high. So I have a couple of very good doctor friends, which you're part of a couple of groups, and we talk a lot about health issues. And I was kind of prepared from this point of view, not for myself, but I've got young kids, and I was like I bought the oximeter, I bought the thermometer, I bought the temperature set, everything I needed to make sure that I can look after the kids. So I had everything ready. I had a couple of doctors friends. I was talking to them, so I contacted them straight away, and I realized that this type of temperature is not. It doesn't seem normal. Next day, more symptoms started coming. I started, I had flu. I could not taste things. The temperature was coming and going, so I started eating paracetamol. For a few hours, I was fine. And then 3-4 hours, it was like temperature was so high that I could not. I was kind of unconscious, just in the bed, not doing anything at all. I rang my work people and I told them I won't be working. I don't know how long. This started slowly. That I thought I'm gonna be, I'm gonna just recover very quickly because I have seen quite a lot of, on social media. You can imagine how many people were reporting their stories. So I was like under the impression that I'll get fit very quickly. This temperature will go away. This started happening on 3rd of November, and it carried on for 5 or 6 days. And after 6 days, I started getting a cough as well. The cough initially wasn't much, but this cough was like a hollow, chesty cough. You could feel, the sound of that cough was totally different. I just thought initially
For the first 6 days, you did not have a cough.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
After 6 days, I just thought that it's because of my sore throat or something that I'm coughing again. Because I was talking to the doctor,
you were still in denial.
Yeah, I mean, I knew I got it tested, so I forgot to tell you. The next day, on the 4th of November, I booked in a test, and on the 5th, I went and found out that it's positive. But the symptoms weren't really severe; they were very, very, very mild symptoms. So I'm going to cover very quickly. So start eating paracetamol. I was eating one and then start eating two of them at the same time. And when I mentioned that there are a couple of friends and the doctors, they are very qualified. One of them works in Oxford Hospital, and the other one is, at least 15 plus years experience. So they were constantly checking the temperature, telling me symptoms, how to deal with them, what to do. Sometimes you do feel cold, but you're not actually cold. So how to tackle those kind of things, how to tackle the you're not in depression, or you're keeping the family safe. I was kind of going through all the measures at the same time. But this carried on for about 10 days. On the 12th of November, I was so ill that I was coughing, but I could not. Every time I was moving, even turning in the bed, I had to cough. Going to the toilet was like a mission, because it takes a lot of energy to move, and after that movement, I was coughing a good 5-10 minutes, and it was very painful. So I kind of stopped eating. Not any food at all, and very little liquid, unless my throat is not good, so I'll just start drinking water. But I kind of stopped eating at that point, just to make myself feel better. But on the 12th of November, I had the cough, which was so severe that I realized I'm actually struggling to breathe. As I mentioned, I had the oximeter. It was 90 plus. Reading is good and okay. Anything below 90, obviously, you should be worried. Mine was on 88, and I was thinking it's not much of a problem. It's very close to the normal. So, sometimes when you're out of breath or you've done some exercise, you can go to that level. But I think that was a mistake on my part. I should have realized earlier rather than waiting, and that could damage the lungs more. Well, on the 12th of November, I actually rang the ambulance, and the paramedics, two of them arrived. They started making the heartbeat, the usual checks, everything, my oxygen level, my blood pressures, everything, and they do realize I was struggling. I couldn't see anything myself other than coughing. I thought I'm gonna be okay, but they decided to take me into the ambulance to do the rest of the checks, put me on oxygen, and then they rang hospital. Remember, this is through November, and it was pretty much of a peak time. Where everybody was like kind of going in. Hospital had literally had no spaces, no beds, nothing. But the minimum they could do was at least give me oxygen. So they took me into the hospital, Oldham Royal Hospital. They left my situation in I would say in a corridor. It wasn't a room, and it wasn't a ward where you normally keep the patients. From 9 in the evening till next morning 10 o'clock in the morning, I did not have a bed. I was just on the stretcher on my own, just with oxygen on. And during that night, I mean, it took about a good 3 to 4 hours, 5 hours just to get a blanket for me. The staff was absolutely hammered with the cases and everybody coming in, and the protocols they have to follow. At that point, the nurse was trying to stabilize my oxygen. Initially, she started with the 1 liter oxygen, which is more than enough. Then she realized that the oximeter is still showing my reading of oxygen is low. It was in 80s exactly, I can't remember, but it wasn't normal. So she started giving me more oxygen. She changed from 1 liter to 2 liter, then 3 liter, then 4 liter, then 5 liter. 5 liter is pretty much, you can see, if you are traveling in a car or in a van very fast, like 100 miles an hour, you take your head out of the window. It was so fast coming in. I have never experienced something like that. So I was thinking this is way too much for what I need. But again, what oximeter was reporting my oxygen level and what I was getting in was two different readings. So she actually started investigating, and she brought in another equipment, which was which she plugged in next to my ear. The bottom part of the ear is quite sensitive, so that gives a slightly different reading than your fingers and hands. And that started reporting in a couple of readings better than the previous one. So she lowered down the oxygen to about 3 liters. Again, all they were doing at that time was giving me painkillers through and give me I don't remember the exact name of the medication they gave me through the drip, but I think it was just to stabilize my blood pressure and oxygen. I think it was steroid, but I'm not sure exactly. And again, what they did was in next day, 10 o'clock, as soon as I got to bed, they did my x-rays for the lungs. And then it came back. Even though I was struggling at that time to breathe, because of the steroids, I felt relaxed. So I had a drip of every morning of 1,000 milliliter steroids, 1,000 milliliter antibiotics, and there was another medication about 1,000, and these were kind of regular on daily basis. In about 5 days' time, they were continuously checking up on me, taking the readings, taking the bloods, taking the the blood pressures every hour, checking what my lungs are, anything improved. During these 5 days, I was absolutely bedbound. I could not even move. I could not go to the toilet. I could not do anything. Even I could not, if my phone was on charging next to my bed on the table, I didn't have enough energy or willingness to actually pick up the phone and do anything. Normally, I'm a quite heavy social media user, but during that time, the amount of stress and things going on in your head, you don't really want anybody to disturb you, or you don't really want to read up on other people's issues, to be honest. Initially, I tried to convince couple of groups. I text them in very close friends. Look, I've got this problem. I'm in hospital, and some of them believed, some of them don't, and the rest of them are still thinking COVID is not real. It's something else. It's just they weren't accepting the fact that it can damage anybody. I must admit that NHS, I've used services a lot. I've got little kids, family, everybody. Obviously, you use Royal Oldham Hospital, but during that time, I actually felt that they've done a great job. I personally think without them, if they weren't that quick in adopting the change, introducing the protocols, introducing the new measures, I wouldn't have survived. They were on daily basis, in the morning, in the evening, explaining to me what's happening, what they're trying to do. So after about 5 to 6 days, I had no other options left other than either get the plasma or the blood from somebody who's already developed antibodies against COVID virus, or sign an agreement with the hospital that they're going to give me some medication, which they are not sure what the side effects are, or something worse could happen. That literally means that this new vaccine they were going to give me, could be end of my life. So they made me read the paper, get them signed. So I had 24 hours to decide that. During that time, I don't know how many times I thought about who shall I ask, what shall I ask, do I really need this, shall I wait? So I obviously spoke to my partner, and she mentioned, obviously the best thing and best advice you can get is from my dad. My dad is also a doctor in Pakistan, so he was aware of all the health conditions and everything I was going through on pretty much on daily basis, and was quite worried as during that time. But luckily, I need to explain this, that Oxford University was doing this research on the COVID patients. They came to me and said, if you sign this document, obviously we will use all this data for our research. And then my regular doctor, who was kind of monitoring my case for past 5-6 days, came over and he said, don't sign the document, wait for another 24 hours. I think your health condition is going to improve. So he made me wait for another 24 hours, and luckily after 24 hours, my condition changed a bit. I don't know. They were monitoring. I requested my x-rays for my lungs, which I didn't get, but I think they were monitoring that it was slowly improving. I saw quite a bit of patients during that time in my ward, and I could see your health condition can deteriorate very, very quick. You know, people were with me one evening. You wake up in the morning, they're gone. So I actually saw there was a guy. He came in, and his dad came in as well, and unfortunately his dad passed away during that night, and you know, around 1 o'clock, and the guy could not get up. He couldn't even speak properly because he had the oxygen mask on his face. So he was helpless, couldn't do anything. They took his father, and he couldn't even go to see anybody. And I mean, next morning when he was able to like breathe a bit better, he, you know, explained to me what happened. So during that time, I could see people. Some people recovered very quickly. Some, you know, you don't just believe how quickly they suffer with this disease. 6 days later, my condition was good enough that I could stand up, barely walk to the toilet with the, you know, with the nurse. She was holding me just in case I fall. So that was the first time after 6 days I went to the toilet, and then I actually realized that I am not coughing as much as I was doing before, which means that the body is producing enough oxygen. I do want to mention that I attempted to take a little oxygen cylinder with me to the toilet before that, but my health didn't really allow me. As soon as I get up from the bed, I think I started coughing and then sat down again. I could not walk with holding the cylinder. It was a small, like 5-6 kilos of oxygen. But 6 days later, when I started walking a bit, then I went back to bed. Well, I came back to bed, but I never actually lie down. I sat down on the bed, and then I realized when I'm sitting down, it's kind of improving a lot quicker. I can breathe a bit better than actually lying down. So I actually sat down on the chair. I had a chair next to my bed, and I sat down for good 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, and I realized that I can breathe properly, I can talk properly, and it's kind of recovering. So one thing I want to mention here is if anybody gets this problem, or if you ever get any, um, you know, problem related to COVID, or you can't breathe, lying down will make it worse. Try to sit down as much as you can so your lungs are upright. It will help a lot. I read upon this during I was there after this. These are kind of advices I wish I knew before I got ill. But during the illness, I also had another misunderstanding on the oxygen. I was told that if you carry on taking oxygen for long, you kind of get dependent on it, and you know they will move you on to the ventilator, and then oxygen will never be taken off. But I think you should inhale as much oxygen as you can using them, because then your lungs have to do less work, and taking it less or just taking it off after every couple of minutes or trying to disrupt the supply of oxygen is not really helpful to the body. That's obviously I realized afterwards. These 6 days were quite problematic. The one thing which I noticed in my behavior was the change that I get angry really quick. The people who were trying to contact me, the people who were trying to wish me that I get better very quick, all of them, I was getting very angry and frustrated for even talking to anybody or even reading their text messages. So I have never experienced kind of depression or that mood before.
Emotionally.
Emotionally, you kind of, so you are on your own. The only thing you can do is ring somebody or talk to them on the phone, and it's kind of, it shows the helplessness that you can't really do much. You want to ring somebody, you ring once, twice, 3 times, and 4 times, and then you're not going to ring them because you've got nothing else to talk about other than telling your health conditions, and which is more depressing again. So I mean, I could understand my sisters, my parents, my kids. They all were worried, but to me, none of that mattered at all. I was thinking, leave me alone. That just I need to rest. I don't want to talk to anyone. Uh, Not even to the friends and anything. I didn't want anything to eat, nothing. Everything kind of tasted the same to me, pretty much tasteless. So there was nothing I wanted to do. Just lie down, sleep, and because I was given steroids during the day, you can't sleep at all. They are, you kind of supposed to stay awake with them. During the night, I used to get some sleep, but again, as I said, every movement I was doing, even going up the bed or turning around, would generate, enough enough problem. They have to cough to get the oxygen level. The support from NHS staff, obviously, the staff was changing during the day, during the night. You had some nurses, which are kind of sharing the full ward. I had like few days in my own room. When my condition got a bit better, I got moved into a ward with other 3-4 people. And I must admit that they were doing a wonderful job dealing with such patients all day long with a different level of condition, and they have to keep their eye on every half an hour is a very stressful job. At that point, you can't really do anything for yourself. You can't do anything for the staff except praying, to be honest. But I realize some patients can be very annoying to them. It's very hard for them to keep up with their job.
What kind of patients did you see? That I mean, what kind of people do you think are most at risk?
From all race, to be honest. The young ones, the Asian background, from Bangladeshi, Pakistani background, some white people from European background, all kind of people. In 6 days, I can't even count how many people I've seen. What we see in media or on social media, the coverage of pandemic is totally different what you see when you're in hospital. What is in hospital is not covered at all in social media. It is kind of, I don't know if it's damage control or whatever the measures are, but staff is quite badly affected with that. We have never seen anything on social media or media, anything about the NHS staff. I know quite a lot of NHS staff which actually suffered because of this. If they had
what do you mean by suffered?
Okay, so
what do you mean by the staff suffered?
Yeah, so two things is they were given, they were kind of, when there were less breaks, there was more patients in each ward. There was no bed free, so there were people waiting for a bed to get free before they can get transferred. The normal wards were kind of becoming critical. It wasn't an emergency ward, but the urgency related to each patient was critical. So in terms of writing down all the data, what is happening to patients, that's again a very important job. I have seen a couple of staff member where they kind of they went on for a shift, went home, and they came back on another shift. So I'm thinking this is quite remarkable for them to kind of do this type of work.
Sure. Coming back to yourself,
yeah.
What do you think made you a high risk person for COVID? Why were you a high risk?
I think two things. One thing I did not realize is I am overweight for my age and the height I have, and I have actually, since I got ill, I started kind of started taking notes in my mind of any person I know of who has inherited this kind of disease from somebody else. Most people I know, they are kind of overweight, and I think that is directly linked to your breathing, and the body needs to pump a lot of oxygen to keep everything going. I don't know scientifically how we'll explain this, but if you even put down 10 people's name who they had COVID, I could pretty much tell you that there's 6-7 of them.
So would you say that this is a disease of the obese people?
I wouldn't say it's because of them. It's because you have the disease, and your body is not proportional. So you're gonna struggle more than others. Other people have mild symptoms.
Why would you say that?
So when you, as I said, so I had 2 other friends who had the same problem. They both smoke, and because they are not obese, they are very slim. I think they got away with it very quick without any breathing problem. To me, I thought I'm not smoking and I will have a better health condition, but then I realized my lungs are struggling to keep breathing, to keep my body in the same position. So that's, it could be, could not, it could be me just thinking that way, but I have actually realized good maximum people who have bigger body than their mass index, they struggle with breathing.
Okay.
Yep.
I think we almost covered almost everything actually.
Yeah.
So let's.
Just a couple of things on that.
Okay.
Once I recovered, this whole period was about 3 weeks. They kind of,
How
when I
long
started,
you were in hospital for 6 days or longer?
6 7 days I can remember. I think I was in hospital, but when I was discharged, I wasn't really fully well. They discharged me with only condition. They delivered a fully oxygen producing machine at home. They gave me an oxygen tank to travel from hospital to home in the car, and they gave me another travel tank so if I need to go out of the house. So I was on oxygen, but they didn't have enough beds, so I had to come home. I was still on oxygen, but I was stable. I was a lot stable than before. My oxygen level was above 90 at that time. But I was still with the oxygen. So during the night when I was sleeping, I was still putting on the oxygen. That was good 3 4 days with that at home. Then I realized that I can actually without the oxygen, I can go out and I can actually go toilet. The main thing was I lost about 20 kilos of weight during this 2 to 3 weeks time. 20 kilos is
That's
a
a lot.
lot. It's a lot for me, and I was looking at myself, and I could not, could not believe that within days, in the morning I'm different, in the evening I'm different. That I've lost a lot of weight. That's pretty much a kilo every day. So I was quite worried that I'm gonna be able to recover properly. Yeah. And the medication you get, it has its own side effects. One of the couple of things which actually mentally really disturbed me was because the medication they give you, you get a hair loss. And this initially I thought it was just happening to me. It was after a month, 2 months, and most of my hair were actually just, like they do the treatment with the cancer patients.
Yes.
They lose all the same thing was happening to me because I saw one of my cousins having this treatment, and then the barber I go to, and he mentioned that like, I get quite a few people. He mentioned somebody else I knew, he had COVID, and it's exactly pretty much after 1 to 2 months later, he had his hair loss again. And I realized that all these people who've been medicated because of the virus, they're actually getting the hair loss as well. But luckily, it stopped after a while, and this was quite stressful because when you are young and you're not expecting this to happen, and this happens, you're trying to find solutions for this, and it is quite quite hard to get to the terms that you are not the same person within 3 weeks. You know, it doesn't take a long time. So this was one thing. Second thing was my lungs, they recovered, but I had an X-ray done 2 months later, which still showed that between 5 to 10% they are still permanently damaged. So even though I recovered, I'm fine, but my lungs are actually not 100%. So I was lucky enough that they recovered most of it, because most people who go to that condition of getting oxygen of 4 or 5 liter, they end up on ventilator, and then not many of them return back. Young people, like 2 days ago, you must have heard of a funeral here. The guy was only 19 years old,
Yes.
and the only problem was he was quite big. He was quite a lot. He was fatter than me. Easy option. So this is then you struggle if you got more weight. I would say obviously losing weight is better for all other diseases, but in this case, in COVID, if you have slim body, there is more chance that you're gonna survive more.
There are lots of people who are, like you said in the interview as well, because there are lots of people who are still denying it, that the coronavirus is real. What would you say to them now?
When I was ill, I actually tried to explain this to a couple of people. They are following the conspiracy theories and the news coming in. I normally look at the scientific, evidences. You can get both school of thoughts, but you only follow the scientific evidences. And the virus is real, so there is no doubt in that. You can, it doesn't really matter where you are in Pakistan, China, or America, or England. It's the same virus. The different variant came afterwards, a tiny bit of differences, but the virus is real. So this is definitely happening. Same thing with the medication and vaccination. Different countries have developed different methods of curing this. There are different methods of creating vaccinations. Again, there are a lot of conspiracy theories. There are a couple of my friends, doctor friends, they're not getting vaccinated, but there is no clear scientific evidence that it is actually doing anything wrong or anything harmful to you. It's more of a precaution that people, because they are not aware, then they don't know, they just don't want to take any risk. But if you look at it, if in a sense that you get so many other vaccinations for other diseases, if anything which is needed to be transmitted into our body, there are lots of other ways of doing this. I don't think COVID is the only way, or the vaccination through COVID, which will actually harm us. There is very hard to judge this, but again, to me, the people I trust and with evidence is proved, they're saying it's okay. So I got my vaccination done.
Okay. Well, I think you made your shared your experiences, and I want to thank you for that. And I think your experiences make it clear that the coronavirus does exist. The evidence is undeniable. And as far as the vaccines are concerned, the jury is still out there. So we'll leave it at that. And thank you very, very much. And inshallah.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.